Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear friends. Allah bless you all. Okay, let's continue. Al-Fatiha. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. صلاة تفرحه وتسعده وترضيه واجزه بها عنا ما هو أهله يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم زدنا ولا تنقصنا وأكرمنا ولا تهنا وأعطنا ولا تحرمنا وآثرنا ولا تؤثر علينا وأرضنا وارض عنا يا كريم. So we concluded the first set of major trials that Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam went through after reaching Egypt. Now there's another test. Now this is a test to do with his brothers. It started before the Egypt issues, but it's a test now for Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam of how to be now when he's in a position of power. And it's a test for the brothers. So what we're going to see is the brothers come to Sayyidina Yusuf and he doesn't immediately say, "Oh my brothers, it's me Yusuf, it's all forgiven." Part of this is Allah's wisdom in dealing with people who have made these mistakes, and someone who realizes they've made a mistake, who changes and repents, great, because then they can adjust their behavior in the future. But when you have someone who doesn't learn, doesn't doesn't grow from their mistakes, they're just going to keep repeating those mistakes again and again. And many a time when Allah has inayah, special concern for someone, Allah sends that person a bit of a difficult situation to humble them. And then when they're humbled and they're just lowered before God, that's when they can admit their mistake and they can start to change. So this was Allah's plan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always, had it planned for Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam to reunite with his entire family. But he wanted it done in a way where the brothers will be taught a lesson and to show that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يَخْتَصُّ بِرَحْمَتِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. This tremendous verse, this golden rule. Allah chooses for His mercy whoever He wants, whoever He has decided. And the person chosen for His mercy here was Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. He was, of all of the brothers, he was made a prophet. They were not prophets. And so Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam has been given this special rank, which what we see is, people who go through problems in life, and why is this happening to me? Sometimes, look, you have Iman, you want to draw closer to Allah, and you've got a series of problems raining down on you. Mubarak. Congratulations. It's a sign Allah loves you. Right? So, Alhamdulillah. So let's continue and see how this played out. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَاءَ إِخْوَةُ يُوسُفَ فَدَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ فَعَرَفَهُمْ وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. And Joseph's brothers came and entered his presence. He recognized them, but they were unaware of who he really was. وَجَاءَ, جاء indicates something coming slowly, or what's coming is tremendous. But it can also, from what I've seen, it can also indicate that who they're coming to. Now, Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam is tremendous. He's a prophet of God, a saint of God, someone who, a Siddiq, someone who's truly beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the prophets are the highest types of saints, you could say. And so Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam is there with a position of power, and his greatness is recognized and understood by everyone. Everyone knows this is a special person. Maybe he's already affected people in their deen at this point through his da'wah, through whatever good he was doing, and maybe people are coming into Islam. We don't really have much details of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam as a prophet. which is very interesting. We have details of other prophets about their role as a prophet, but we don't know much about many of the other prophets as human beings, as people who were tested by God in one way or the other. We know the tests relating to the prophethood, but with Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, we don't know much about his role in da'wah, just what we see in the prison, and we can infer a lot. But as a human being, as a man who was tested by God, yes, we know a lot. So Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam is the tremendous one. So they're coming to him, and then they enter his presence. So they go into the court, they go into wherever he would sit, and he'd impart. So they have the grain, people come buy the grain, and so he's there overseeing it. So it's done fairly, it's done justly, and clearly he's got a special position. He might have some that the king gave to him, so he can give and he can lavish it on people if he wants them. This does seem to be the case because he's very generous in the way he deals with people, alayhi salatu wasalam. So then the verse is فَعَرَفَهُمْ, and he recognized them, a verb. He recognized them. Arafa, irfan, is different to ilm generally in the Arabic language. The arafa indicates recognizing. Ilm, recognizing just a being, a thing, the being of something. And arafa, generally recognizing their qualities and their traits as well. But here he's recognized their being, and that they're his brothers. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expressed that they didn't recognize him with a nominal sentence, وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ, and they do not him, they don't recognize. They have no recognition of who Yusuf is, alayhi salatu wasalam. And this makes sense. So if we said he was 8 years old, for example, let's say he was 8 years old when they put him into the well, and he's taken, and let's say he eventually ends up in the same year, let's say he ends up in Egypt. He grows up to manhood. Let's say those events happened when she tried to seduce him when he was 18, 20 even, right? And then let's say they put him into the prison. So 12 years we said he's there roughly. So that would take him to 30 or thereabouts. And coming out of the prison, and then we know that at least 7 years have passed, and then because the 7 easy years have gone, now they're in the 7 difficult years. So people are coming to buy grain. They know, let's go to Egypt. They have loads. They'll sell it to us. So he's close to or around 40 years of age, and a lot happens, between 8 and 40, and you can see someone as as a young, energetic child when they're 8, and they're completely different at the age of 40. So his brothers are much older than him. Remember, they were grown men then. Usba, they were at least in their teens and 20s. So they're in their 50s, in their 50s, maybe a bit older. And so they've come. So how are they gonna? And also, when someone doesn't suspect something, you can really, put it, under their nose, and they won't notice it. So they don't expect Yusuf to be in Egypt, let alone maybe they see him and he's a striking, handsome man. Some, general resemblance, but he'll have had a beard and dressed, in fine clothes, and so they won't have thought, yeah, this is our long lost brother. So then Allah said, وَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ بِجَهَازِهِمْ قَالَ ائْتُونِي بِأَخٍ لَكُمْ مِنْ أَبِيكُمْ أَلَا تَرَوْنَ أَنِّي أُوفِي الْكَيْلَ وَأَنَا خَيْرُ الْمُنْزِلِينَ. When he had provided them with their supplies, he demanded, bring me your brother on your father's side. Do you not see that I give full measure and I am the best of hosts? So he was their half brother, as we said at the beginning. And he said, when he'd given them all of their supplies, all of the things that they'd come and purchase, all of the food and everything, he had his servants set it up and pack their camels and everything and give them everything. And so what we also see Sayyidina Yusuf is taking active part in this, and especially having recognized them, he'll have given them a lot of attention. And he was very generous to them, as we see at the end of the verse, where he says, "Don't you see, I'm a very generous host." And so Sayyidina Yusuf, also another thing, he also says to them, "Bring me ituni." So قال ائتوني بأخ لكم, bring me a brother of yours. He doesn't say your brother. This a brother of yours from your father's side. So he's mentioning the youngest brother, who they say his name was Binyamin. They're mentioning he's mentioning his youngest brother in a way that he'd refer to a stranger, like he doesn't know him. So he hasn't. This was all planned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we'll see. And وَكَذَلِكَ كِدْنَا لِيُوسُفَ, we'll see in coming verses. So it was all planned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to humble them, for them to see his virtue, and for the family to be reunited. So he said to them, "Bring me this brother of yours from your father's side." Why bring them? So basically what happened, they went and they will have said, "We've come to purchase grain." Okay. And they said, "There's 10 of us," because remember, 12 brothers, one is there as Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, and then the youngest one is there with Binyamin. Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam must have wanted to keep him. I mean, after what happened to Yusuf, wanted to keep him close. So they will have said, "We need grain we have an old father." So they told him about that. So we need the grain for 13 families, basically. So us 12. For 12 families, you can say. So, because Yusuf's not with them. So, them 10, Binyamin 11, and Yaqub, and his wives, and whoever else was there. So, Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam will have said, "Well, there's only 10 of you. So, okay, old father, I get it. We'll give you the grain." Remember, it's rationed. So, what he did is he said, "Okay," and he gave them the grain for Binyamin and his family. But he said, "In future, I'm holding you to this. If you want grain again, you need to prove that you do have a brother, and you're not just being, dishonest, trying to get more grain from us. You have to bring this brother of yours." And a beautiful plan here, because they are going to come back, right? Because it's, the years of the drought. Nothing's growing, right? And so they have to come back. And he contrived a way to make them bring the youngest brother, and is also going to convince, be a means to convince their father. And remember, he wants to do this, teach them a lesson, and to reunite the family. So yes, it may cause some difficulty, but Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam is a prophet. Allah honors him with special knowledge, and he also tests him. So Allah's plan for him, right? So he said, "Bring me this brother of yours. Ala tarawna anni ufil kayla." Do you not see that I give the kayl? Literally, kayl means volume, right? Or something that's measured by volume. Anni ufil kayla, that I give it in full measure, like it's generous amounts. Whatever you're paying for, you get the full amount, maybe even more. And so he's honest, he's trustworthy. وَأَنَا خَيْرُ الْمُنزِلِينَ. Not only is he trustworthy, he's generous, and I'm the best of hosts. So they came, he'll have fed them, he'll have sat with them, spoke to them. And it seems like Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam will have done this a lot with many people. And it's his reputation. He knows he knows how to be with people, to put them at ease, and to comfort them and tell them, look, it's a test from Allah that the rains will come back and life will get easier. And I'm pretty sure he will have been consoling people like this, being the kind person that he was, alayhi salatu wasalam. So he says, "Can't you see, look, I'm very generous, I give you full measure, I'm completely fair, and I'm generous on top of that. You can't be generous and then to be robbing people on the side." Right, so it's like you can't. Inna Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsan. Allah commands adl, justice, and excellence. So you can't have excellence without justice there. So he's perfectly fair. Beautiful lesson here, and he's generous on top of that. Right, it's really tremendous. So now they think, okay, right, we have to come back, right, but also to do that, to convince them, he does a couple of other things. But he says, فَإِن لَمْ تَأْتُونِي بِهِ فَلَا كَيْلَ لَكُمْ عِنْدِي وَلَا تَقْرَبُونَ. And if you do not bring him to me next time, next time is understood because, they're getting the grain now, but they'll need it again. But he's saying, you don't even come. And so if you don't bring him to me, then you have no grain with me. Like nothing. You won't have anything. Indi. From me, you won't get anything. Find someone else, basically. Wala taqrabun. And don't even come close to me because you're not going to get anything. So a very clever plan Sayyidina Yusuf put into action to make them willingly and from their own selves try to bring Yusuf's brother Binyamin. And yes, it's going to cause pain. It is going to cause pain, but it's a tremendous. The outcome is going to be great. Yeah. So his brothers respond, قالوا سنراود عنه أباه وإنا لفاعلون. They promise we will try to convince his father to let him come, and we will certainly do our best. Soon, but it's a promise. The scene is indicating that they're promising. And then nurawidu, we've seen this verb. We've seen this word many times now in this surah. And we're going to try to convince our father using different means if they have to talk to him, to apply pressure, to try and convince him, to coax him, trying to get him to say, okay, fine, you can take your youngest brother with you. And وَإِنَّا لَفَاعِلُونَ, and they say his father, not our father. Right? So, showing that their bond is actually stronger. So it's as though the father, his father's keeping him, is his father. But وَإِنَّا لَفَاعِلُونَ, so nominal sentence with inna, and we will definitely do this no matter what. We will bring him. We will definitely get him to come, and make sure our father lets him come. So this is a promise. Now in their mind, they're not being dishonest in their desire to do this. They want to bring Binyamin because they have a sense of responsibility. Remember, it's a time of drought. It's a time where there isn't much food, and they have to put food on the table. They have dependents to feed. It was easier in the past. They just took the sheep, grazing. The sheep came, gave milk. They could do that. They could, slaughter the sheep. You could eat them, but or they could, sell the milk for grain. There was a lot that could be done, but now things have changed. So they're having to, take this thing seriously. So yes, we will bring our brother. You don't worry. وقال لفتيانه جعلوا بضاعتهم في رحالهم لعلهم يعرفونها إذا انقلبوا إلى أهلهم لعلهم يرجعون. Joseph ordered his servant to put his brother's money back into their saddlebags so that they would find it when they returned to their family, and perhaps they would come back. So وقال, so at another point before they set off, Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam commanded his fityan, plural of fata, as we've said. Fata, a strong young man in his prime. So they're his servants, so they're the people who work there, and they're the ones who take the grain. It must have been put in bags and whatever, and sacks, and they're the ones who load the camels up, and they must have insisted, we're going to have our people do it to ensure that nothing goes wrong, and honesty and everything. So here in this situation, Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam says to them, Ij'alu bida'atahum fi rihalihim. Put their bida'a means stock or wares, things that people sell. So it seems like they came not technically with money, but with other things to give in exchange of the grain. So he said, put that back in their rahal. A rahal is the saddle that goes on a camel, but then they would the pouches, and there's other things connected to it. So where a person would put his necessities and his belongings, and so he said, give them the grain and put their wares that they brought as payment back in there as well. Now with it all piled up, they would have known that it's back there, but knowing that they're going to go home They're going to unpack, and then they're going to see, well, look, we're better off. Look how kind he's been. That he's given us our initial payment back, and he's given us the grain for us and Binyamin and our father, and he just wants us to go there. And next time we go, he wants us to just take Binyamin. So, um, look, we've got nothing to fear. So this also, any sort of worry or concern they must have had on the way back must have been alleviated from seeing this. Why? Because they would have thought maybe Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam won't send their youngest brother with them. I mean, who would, after what they did with Yusuf? And, a person would think, well, look, maybe he's, they're after him now. So they made that plan. And so, and they are going to speak to Yaqub, but this will have given them confidence that, look, it's okay. He doesn't have, ill intentions. So he said, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَعْرِفُونَهَا, that hopefully they'll recognize it. إِذَا انقلبوا إِلَى أَهْلِهِمْ, when they return انقلابا. This word meanings has a nuance of you go back to your family from a journey safe and sound, and they're safe and sound. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ, in the hope that they after recognizing it, they return. And if they hadn't come back, then clearly he knew they were going to come back, but from the inspiration from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But these were the practical steps taken to ensure it. And if they didn't, then other things would have had to be done, but Allah wanted it to go this way. And then he says, فَلَمَّا رَجَعُوا إِلَى أَبِيهِمْ قَالُوا يَا أَبَانَا مُنِعَ مِنَّا الْكَيْلِ. When Joseph's brothers returned to their father, they pleaded, "Oh, our father, we have been denied further supplies. فَأَرْسِلْ مَعَنَا أَخَانَا نَكْتَلْ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. So send our brother with us so that we may receive our measure, and we will definitely watch over him." This sounds familiar, doesn't it? فَلَمَّا رَجَعُوا إِلَىٰ أَبِيهِمْ, when they went back to their father, they went to Sayyidina Yaqub. Ya Abana, they did this earlier, didn't they? Ya Abana, La ta'manna ala Yusuf, right? You don't trust us with Yusuf. Ya Abana, Muni'a min al-kay. Look at others. Look, they don't start with, yeah, we met this person, this was happened. Look, he's been very kind to us. He just wants to. They just go to the worst case, the worst aspect of it, in order to strengthen their case. Like, oh, look, you have to send him. And Muni'a min al-kay, we've been forbidden. Mana is to stop, to bar someone. We've been barred from taking any more grain unless we take our youngest brother. Muni'a min al-kayl. For arsil, so send. So as I said, in some contexts, there's the term unleash. To like something wants to go, but you're holding it back, then you let go, so it moves. So arsil ma'ana akhana. So even he sees maybe he was agreeing with them, but even he sees the the need for it, because the famine, they're all in a very difficult predicament. So naktal, and we'll get this provision. And once again, this construction which I said Allah used to express that He's going to preserve the Quran. Wa inna lahu, and nominal sentence with inna, and then the plural inna lahu put before, because it should be lahafidhuna lahu. That's put before, and we him shall protect. Not as eloquent when you translate it directly in English, but in Arabic it's tremendously eloquent. Wa inna lahu. Then the lam, or for the emphasis, lahafidhu, nominal sentence, and the ism fa'il here, that we will be complete, utter, absolute protectors of him. Nothing is going to happen to him. Not a hair on his head will be harmed. That's what they're saying. And they're pleading, and they're really trying to convince Sayyidina Yaqub. And obviously, we can imagine he's not happy at this request, and based on what they did in the past. But let's stop here, and we'll see how this matter unfolds, inshallah. Allah bless you all, and we'll continue, inshallah. Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.